The sound of a gunshot rang out in the quiet South Australian suburb of Littlehampton. When police arrived at the ordinary-looking family home, they discovered a gruesome scene in the garage. 2 men laying in pools of blood. The gun safe was open and there was a bloodied hatchet on the floor. Standing nearby was Lisa Lyons, a university lecturer whose tumultuous love life would result in an international manhunt. Lisa Lyons' academic achievements were impressive. She had 2 PhDs, 1 in history and 1 in creative writing. From 2009, Lisa worked as a lecturer in universities in her home city of Adelaide, South Australia. She was an expert on the Spanish Civil War, and she was also involved in many professional writing and editing organisations. She was a vocal critic of the over-commercialisation of Australian universities, and also wrote extensively about balancing motherhood and academia. She shared 2 young children with her long-term partner, Jonathan Horton, who worked as a plumber. In 2014, Lisa was offered a position in the prestigious Military History Department at the University of New South Wales, Canberra, at the Australian Defence Force Academy. She and her family relocated to the nation's capital, where Jonathan became the children's primary caregiver so Lisa could focus on her career. In 2016, Lisa founded Capstone Editing. Her company provided academic proofreading and editing, as well as training courses for professional editors. It's unclear whether Jonathan worked within the business, but he does appear in some promotional photos on the website. 21-year-old Zachariah Bruckner was undertaking his bachelor's degree in arts at the Australian Defence Force Academy and had aspirations to join the army. He was 13 years younger than Lisa, but the two hit it off. Lisa gave him a job at Capstone, then in late 2016, invited him to move into her home where she lived with her family. In early 2017, Lisa, Jonathan, and their children moved back to South Australia to a house they purchased together in the Adelaide Hills suburb of Littlehampton. Zachariah came with them. In June, Lisa and Jonathan split up, and in August, Jonathan moved out. Lisa changed all the locks on the house and stashed Jonathan's belongings in the garage. She and Zachariah then officially began a relationship. Late afternoon on October 29, 2017, Jonathan arrived at the house to drop off the 2 kids who had stayed with him over the weekend. Zachariah met him out front, and the 2 men walked into the garage together. A few minutes later, the sound of a gunshot rang out. Lisa, who was inside the house, rushed into the garage to find her boyfriend and her ex, both lying on the floor badly injured. Zachariah had been shot in the hip, while Jonathan had been hit in the back of the neck with a hatchet several times. Lisa called 000 and covered Jonathan with a sheet. Both men were rushed to the hospital, but nobody expected Jonathan to live. The following day, police gave a statement to the media. They hadn't interviewed either of the men yet, but they assumed that the shooter Jonathan had attacked first, and then Zachariah found the hatchet and acted out of self-defense. A few days later, Zachariah was able to give police his account of the incident. He claimed that Jonathan was upset that Lisa was in a relationship with him and wanted to get revenge. Lisa and Jonathan owned several hunting rifles that were kept in a gun safe in the garage. Zachariah told the police that Jonathan shot him with one of the rifles, so he grabbed a hatchet to defend himself. Jonathan was unable to tell his side of the story, as he remained unconscious for weeks. He survived his injuries but suffered irreparable damage to his spine. He was paralyzed from the neck down and would be confined to a wheelchair for the rest of his life and require round-the-clock care. Jonathan was charged with the attempted murder of Zachariah Bruckner. Jonathan called the charge a, quote, farce, and he pleaded not guilty. He and his mother, Rhonda, were determined to clear his name. In September 2019, Jonathan's trial began. He insisted that he was lured into the garage by Zachariah and was struck first. He also denied ever firing the gun. The order of events would be crucial in determining whether or not Jonathan was guilty. The prosecution painted Jonathan as a jealous ex, suspicious that the mother of his children had started an affair with a younger man while they were all living under the same roof. According to Zachariah, Jonathan had lured him into the garage under the pretense of wanting to show him his hunting rifles. They were standing next to each other in front of the open gun safe, when Jonathan grabbed a rifle and shot Zachariah in the abdomen. Zachariah fell to his knees, then desperately grabbed the closest tool he could reach. He said he didn't even realize he was grabbing a hatchet. He started swinging the hatchet randomly as hard as he could at Jonathan, then climbed onto a stack of boxes. As Jonathan turned away to get more ammunition, Zachariah struck him on the back of his neck. Jonathan then fell down flat on his stomach. Zachariah also fell onto his back, but continued to flail his arm, trying to hit the back of Jonathan's head and neck. According to Zachariah, Jonathan said he was going to kill Lisa as well. Jonathan's defense team used forensic and medical evidence to pick apart Zachariah's story and argue that Jonathan was actually the one acting out of self-defense. Blood spatter evidence showed that Zachariah was not shot while standing in front of the open gun safe. He was actually shot while standing 3.6 meters or 12 feet away from the safe near the garage roller door. The defense then pointed out that all Jonathan's wounds were localized to the back of his neck. There was no way Zachariah could have struck Jonathan with that much force and that accurately if he was lying on the floor on his back with a fresh gunshot wound. Then there was also a Facebook message exchange that clearly indicated that Zachariah was the one who asked Jonathan to see the rifle. "Can I take a few pics of your primary rifle and grab the specs to send to a mate?" When Zachariah was asked to name the friend in court, he was unable to. Jonathan also testified that he had no idea that Lisa and Zachariah were having an affair, nor did he care. He admitted that he had been sleeping around as well, and was actually relieved when he finally moved out. He wasn't upset or jealous at all. Lisa's role in everything also came under scrutiny and revealed a clear financial motive. Shortly after she and Jonathan broke up, Lisa moved $200,000 out of their joint mortgage account into her personal banking account. 5 days after the attack, Lisa vented to her psychologist about Jonathan and the difficulties of child custody arrangements. Lisa was frustrated that Jonathan was seeking 50% custody, as that would entitle him to 50% of their assets, and he also wouldn't have to pay child support. 12 days after the attack, Lisa wrote to Jonathan's superannuation provider, pretending to be his spouse even though they were never legally married. She had his employment details changed to present Jonathan as a non-manual, white-collar worker, even though he was actually a plumber. If Jonathan had died from his injuries, Lisa would have received $800,000 in life insurance, almost double the amount that would have been paid out to a manual worker. Character witnesses attested that Jonathan had no history of violence, but the same could not be said about Zachariah. A psychological report written in 2014 for the Department of Defense described Zachariah as, quote, argumentative, verbally hostile, and deluded with regard to his self-importance and place in the military context. 2 years later, his appointment as a staff cadet was terminated after he threw a female cadet down some stairs. His applications to re-enter the Royal Military College or to be transferred to the Army Reserve were denied in November 2016. The trial went on for 4 weeks. The jury deliberated for about 3 hours before delivering a not guilty verdict. Although he was acquitted in court, Jonathan and his mother did not feel like justice had been properly served. There was still the question of who had fired the rifle at Zachariah Bruckner. Did he turn the gun on himself to frame Jonathan? Was that the plan all along? Plus, the Hortons were extremely unhappy with how the local police had handled the case. Before any evidence was analysed or either of the men interviewed, local police had publicly accused Jonathan of attempted murder. Even the most basic procedures, such as examining phone records, were not conducted before Jonathan was charged. But of course, the greatest injustice was the fact that Jonathan's former quality of life was totally gone after the axe attack rendered him quadriplegic. Quick note, everything I'm about to tell you in this chapter are allegations. In January 2020, the South Australian police were reopening the investigation into the 2017 garage attack. Lisa Lyons took her 2 children and fled, first moving to Thailand, then settling in Taiwan, a country that conveniently does not have an extradition treaty with Australia. Lisa obtained a working visa and got a job at a law firm in Xinjiang district in New Taipei. She secured a passport and citizenship to the nation of Vanuatu and was able to evade Australian authorities for the next 3 years. However, South Australian police knew her visa would eventually expire and she'd have to leave the country to apply for a new one. Taiwanese police were alerted into the attempted murder investigation into Lisa Lyons and were asked to surveil her movements. As expected, Lisa was making plans to travel overseas. On November 15, 2023, Lisa, now aged 43, and her children flew to the Pacific island nation of Palau to renew her visa. Interpol had issued a red notice for Lisa and a yellow missing persons notice for her 2 children, so authorities, including Australian major crimes detectives, were there waiting when they landed. Lisa was immediately arrested and then extradited to Brisbane, then Adelaide. Zachariah Bruckner was arrested in Brisbane that same day and also extradited to Adelaide. They were both charged with 2 counts each of attempted murder and conspiracy to murder. The children were taken into police custody before they were finally returned to Jonathan Horton, who had gone over 3 years without seeing his kids. On November 24th, the 3rd arrest was made in the case. 34-year-old Letitia Fortune from Adelaide was also charged with 1 count of attempted murder. It turned out that Lisa had been caught in not 1, but 2 love triangles. She met Letitia on a dating app in 2017, just after she and Jonathan initially split up. Shortly after the garage attack in October 2017, Lisa invited Letitia to move in with her children, and Zachariah. Whatever was going on under that roof, we might never know, but murder was apparently still on Lisa's mind. Early in the morning on New Year's Day 2018, Letitia snuck into the Hampstead Rehabilitation Centre, an inpatient facility where Jonathan had been moved to. He was still recovering from his injuries and was completely paralysed from the neck down. As Letitia made her way into Jonathan's room, an anonymous tip-off alerted local police that a woman was planning to smother Jonathan Horton with a pillow. Letitia was caught just outside Jonathan's room by security, but she was let go without being questioned. The anonymous tip-off was later revealed to have come from Letitia's unnamed ex-partner. When Lisa was cross-examined in court in 2019, she downplayed her relationship with Letitia and claimed that Letitia was mentally unstable. She denied conspiring together to murder Jonathan, but text messages between them clearly showed them discussing the murder plot. Lisa even suggested that Letitia should bring a pillow in a bag. Just another example of the inadequate investigation that led to the false attempted murder charge against Jonathan. His lawyer noted that it was convenient that Letitia had shown up early in the morning on a public holiday when only skeleton staff would be around, and also somehow knew exactly how to navigate the campus to Jonathan's room. Lisa could offer no explanation as to why Letitia was at the rehab center that morning. During the original investigation, detectives concluded that there had been, quote, nil conspiracy or solicit to murder, even though Letitia was never formally questioned. Believe it or not, Lisa was still not done. After she moved to Taiwan, she kept in touch with Zachariah. Between December 2021 and August 2022, the pair continuously discussed killing Jonathan. They sought out a hitman to, quote, finish the job of murdering Jonathan and his mother. However, the hitman turned out to be an undercover cop, and this sting marked the beginning of the end for Lisa Lyons. So even after allegedly masterminding 3 murder attempts on Jonathan Horton, Lisa indicated that she would plead not guilty to all charges. She asked to be released on bail for her children, but her request was denied as she was deemed a flight risk. Lisa Lyons, Zachariah Bruckner, and Letitia Fortune are all awaiting their court dates in May 2024. Taiwanese police searched Lisa's apartment following her arrest and discovered evidence of financial crimes and announced they may also pursue a case against her. After the news of the arrests, Jonathan released a public statement. After 6 long years, I am profoundly relieved my children are finally safe. This has been a cruel and exhausting struggle. My mother and I have been through hell, but we never gave up. He had his physical ability destroyed, his 2 children taken, his name dragged through the mud, and survived 3 murder attempts. But finally, Jonathan Horton might be getting some justice. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you want to support our channel and get early access to future videos, you can sign up to our Patreon below.